Hello and welcome to the Faith Life. As I mentioned in my first video, I said I was going to be tackling or looking at the topic of stress. And this is going to be a two-parter. So in this video, in part one, we're going to be looking at stress and exam stress. So how we can look to try and manage or deal with the stress that we might feel when it comes to revision and exams. And the reason I wanted to start off with stress is because it is exam season. It's that period where revision is racking up, and a lot of you will be having exams, whether it's GCSE, AS, A level. If you're at university, regardless of what year you're in, you probably have got some exams. So I thought relevant topic, and hopefully all of you, going to be optimistic, will find this helpful. If not, hopefully most of you find it helpful. So yeah, we're going to be looking at exam stress and how we can turn to God and the Bible to help us during general times of stress, but in particular exam stress. And then in the second video, we're going to be looking at stress over what comes next. So it might be stress over you finished your exams and you are stressing about going to university, or you're stressing about what you should do for a job, or things like that. So that'll be the second video. But for this video, we're just going to be trying to focus in on exam stress and stress over revision as well. So yeah, hopefully you'll find this helpful. So let's get stuck in. We're gonna firstly, I just want to think about the build up to exams and what our process is in the build up to exams. So, you know, you might be the sort of person where you make a revision timetable and you stick to it like an absolute soldier, and you are, you know, you've got your 9 till 6, or I know some people who get up at 7 and then they keep revising until about 11 o'clock in the evening, and they give themselves like a half an hour lunch break. If you're that sort of person, then great devotion, but I imagine that itself comes with a lot of stress. So that's one side, and on the other side of kind of the spectrum, you might be the sort of person who literally does not revise. Although you have the intention of revising, you always manage to find something else to distract you. It might be something like hanging out with friends. It might be binging on some Netflix, you know, the latest series that you're just like, yeah, I need to watch all this. It might be that you stick on your Xbox or your PlayStation and you just find that the hours have completely flown by. So, you know, if you're that person, then that again comes with its stress, because you're putting the issue to one side of revision and exams, and probably the stress that comes with that. But then when you do decide to address it, the stress of it all just sort of hits you in one go. So neither are ideal, because both have come with stress, and it's a natural part of exams. So what I'm hoping we can have a look at is just what the Bible kind of says about stress and situations like that, and how we can then relate it to exams. And hopefully it will be helpful, and you'll find that, okay, yes, you're still going to get stressed, because it's our natural thing is to get stressed, but hopefully you'll find an easier and better way to manage that stress. So to kind of kick off the exam stress topic, we're going to turn to the Bible, and yes, it's going to help us, believe it or not. So Bible, got my trusty one here. It's NIV translation, but you know, whatever translation you find best for you, please do use it. Have a look at what we're going to look at. We're going to be looking at Psalm 46. So we're going to be going to the Old Testament, dare I say it, but it's okay. The Old Testament is actually relevant, and hopefully you'll see how relevant by the end of this video. You'll be like, oh yeah, actually Psalm 46 was actually quite helpful, even though it's Old Testament and I thought only the New Testament would really be that helpful. But no, hopefully you'll see what the Old Testament is. So yeah, if you haven't got a Bible and you're watching this video, then I recommend a website like Bible Gateway, and actually really good website, because they have loads of different translations. All you need to do is type in the little search bar Psalm 46 and then pick your translation and you're away. If you're relatively new to looking at the Bible, or this is going to be the first time you are looking at the Bible, then I would probably recommend something like the Message, purely because it is a easy to read translation, and it puts it in a contemporary way. Sometimes it's helpful, really helpful on its own. Other times I find it best to read the Message and then kind of revert back to like the NIV translation. So I'm going to be using NIV purely because that's what my Bible is. It's what I've grown up reading, yeah, I like the flow of it. So we're going to be looking at Psalm 46. Before any of you have a mass panic thinking, oh no, not a Bible study, I can't be bothered, quick, pause the video, stop the video, I don't want to watch any more of this. To put you at ease, Psalm 46 is 11 verses, so it's not long at all. And to make you feel even better about it is we're only actually going to be looking at 5 verses. So we're going to look at the first 3 and then the final 2. So less than half of the psalm we're going to be looking at. So don't worry, you aren't going to get bored, and actually by the end of it, hopefully you'll think, oh, actually that was really helpful. So to start off with, I'm just going to read the first 3 verses in Psalm 46, and please do have a look at it in whatever translation you think best for you. So Psalm 46 verses 1 to 3, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. So I want us to focus on verse 1 to start with, because I think there's actually a few things that we can pick out there, and we can literally, the first verse we can already pick apart and be like, this can actually really help us. So firstly, I want us to look at God is our refuge and strength. I want us to think about, okay, it says God is our refuge and strength, but what is refuge and what is strength? So refuge is a state of being safe, and it's also a place of security when being pursued, or by pursuit, danger, or difficulty. So refuge isn't just kind of a word here that's used lightly. It's actually saying that God is not only our safe place, he's also our security from pursuit, danger, and difficulty. And then we've got God is our strength. Now, strength, as I'm sure all of us know, physical strength. So God is our physical strength, but strength is also the ability to withstand great force or pressure. So that, I think, gives a whole new spin to it. So we've got God is our refuge. He's our safety, our safe place. He is a place where we can feel secure, and we don't have to worry about difficulty, danger, or pursuit. And then you add that with he can be our physical strength, but also he is able, that the strength of God, he is able to withstand great force or pressure. Now, we might think, okay, as a person, I can withstand a fair amount of force or pressure. But then if you think about God, who is the Almighty, who he can withstand any force or pressure. So here it's saying God is our refuge and strength. So we have God. We can go to God and be secure and safe and not have to worry about pursuit or any difficulty, which is really great. But then when you couple that with the strength of God, great force or pressure. So these difficulties, they're not just small things. They are big things, like the most difficult things we could be going through. God gives us the strength to get through them. And I think that, especially in exam time, is a great thing to hear. So, exams are a big thing for all of you. They decide what you get to do next. And yes, okay, then it doesn't matter if you don't do that well in something, because you might actually, if you're not exam focused, you might decide you're going to go and do something else. But there is still the stress there. And what this is saying is, if you hand it over to God, then he will be there for you and he will give you the strength to get through it. Obviously, it's not saying that you don't have to worry about revising or anything, because, you know, God's just going to give it to you on a plate. No, what it's saying is, you have to, yes, you're going to struggle through these things, and revision is something that you're going to have to do. It's not saying he's going to take away the difficult situation, but what it's saying is he's there as a safe place for you to escape to during the time of difficulty. And then he's going to then give you the strength to get through that time. So it's really important that what the psalmist is saying here is that we need to turn to God in prayer and say, "Oh Lord, help me please through this period of revision, through this exam," and then God will then give you his strength and say, "Okay, here you go, you can handle this situation, you can tackle it." Now we move on to the second part of the first verse, an ever-present help in trouble. So we've had God is our refuge and strength, brilliant, great to know, and then he's an ever-present help in trouble. In this situation, if we think of trouble as the stress that we're feeling due to exams and revision, then God is ever present. Ever present means always there, always near. So God is always there. We might not realize it, and often I think we're quite good at ignoring God. But what this is saying is, just because we ignore him doesn't mean he's gone. I mean, he's not like he's just been like, "Oh yeah, see you later," and you don't want me, I'll jog on, see you later. He's right there, he's with us. So this refuge and strength that God is for us is always there. He's always there. He's always this refuge and strength. And all we need to remember to do is to twig our brains and be like, "Yeah, I know you're there, and actually, I really need your help right now. So please help me." And he will, because he's always there. So that's the encouragement in verse 1. So we move on to verse 2. And again, don't need to look at the whole of verse 2, surprisingly, to find the gem that we're looking for here. Verse 2 says, "Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea." And verse 3, "Though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging." The bit we're going to focus on here is, therefore we will not fear. Now, it's very easy for us to let this period, this exam time, this revision time really get to us, and we're just like, no, it can feel like it can feel like the earth is giving away beneath our feet. It can feel like the mountains are falling into the sea. I mean, it can feel like a period of complete and utter turmoil, and we're just like, I don't know what to do. I'm revising, but it's not going in, and what this psalm is saying is, it can feel like that, and it can it could even be like that, but we don't need to fear. And the therefore means we have to look back to the previous verse, which we already have looked at. We don't need to fear, despite all this going on, despite the stress of the revision and the stress of the exams. We don't need to fear, because actually we've got the refuge and strength of God, and he's always there for us. So what we need to remember is, if we feel this fear creeping in, or the stress is sort of starting to build up in us, and it feels like it's going to just explode out the top of our head and we can't cope, we need to remember that actually we don't need to cope by ourselves, because we've got God with us, and then therefore we will not fear. So that's kind of the powerful part of the first bit of the psalm. And then if we actually look to the last part of the psalm, verse 10 and 11, we can actually see how we get to that point, and what we need to do in order to recognize that God is there as this refuge and strength. So I'm just going to read verses 10 and 11, which say, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress." So, we've got the first few verses say, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, Therefore, we will not fear. So, the earth give way, the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. Which is great to hear. I mean, it's a really powerful image that God is there with us, and he's giving us this refuge and strength that is, insurmountable. Nothing can beat it. And then we think, well, okay, that's great, but how do I actually come to know that? And the psalmist, being extremely helpful, actually tells us in verse 10, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth." Be still. So to be still means to just rest in God's presence. So it's very, very easy for us to, like I said at the beginning, to either be on the, I need to revise from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, or to be on the other side and say, I'm going to distract myself with X, Y, Z so that I just forget about exams and forget about revision, and the stress isn't, and then the stress isn't there. But actually, neither of those are healthy things to do. What we need to be doing is we definitely need to be on the revising side. So we need to be on the, okay, I'm going to get up and do a certain amount of revision today, and not on the side of I'm going to do everything but revise. But what we need to make sure we do is to leave space to be still and listen to God and to turn to Him. So it might be that we plan in a couple of breaks in our day where during that time we just rest in God's presence and we just reflect and pray to Him. And it's at that time that we will, it could be a simple thing, just saying, Lord, I really need your help during this period of revision. I'm feeling absolutely exhausted. And what we need is God's strength. And as we know in the first few verses of the psalm, that God is always there, and he's always, he is our refuge and strength all the time. It's not just some of the time, it's all the time. And we just need to leave space to be still and to recognize that truth. And God will be like, here you go, here's the strength you need. Here's, crack on with your revision. I'm with you, you're not doing this by yourself. And I really want you to kind of take that message with you and grasp hold of that truth and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to have to revise, and it's going to be stressful, and I might find it hard at times, but actually I'm not doing it by myself, because I've got a God who is way bigger than these exams, and His promise in this psalm is that He's my refuge and strength, and so I don't need to fear it. I don't need to fear these exams. I don't need to fear this revision. All I need to do is do my best, and God's with me. And then verse 11, to put the imagery really powerfully in place, the Lord Almighty is with us. So again, He's ever present. He's with us. He's not going anywhere, even though we think He is. That's just us losing sight of Him, not Him losing sight of us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Now, a fortress, I mean, I don't know about you, but that is powerful imagery. That is something that cannot be knocked down, cannot be, I mean, think of like a really big castle with its massive stone walls, and you think, well, okay, that would take some doing to get through. Now imagine if that castle was God, or God's castle, and I mean, nothing's getting through that. And that is the fortress that we have in God. And that is the reason we don't need to fear. So yeah, during this revision time, during this exam period, I just really encourage you to focus some time a day on God and hand over the stresses, hand over the troubles, the worries that you might have about your exams, about your revision, and just offer it up to God and see what happens. And I can guarantee that your stress that you're feeling right now will be a heck of a lot less once you've handed it over to God. So please take that as an encouragement. That is all I wanted to say on the psalm in this video. That is, that's kind of my focus for you guys during this exam period, is to say, yes, you're going to be stressed. Please do revise, because you're going to need to do some revision. But make sure you keep a space to be still, to know that God is God. And once you do that, you can be encouraged knowing that He's your refuge and strength, He's your fortress, and therefore you do not need to fear about your exams or about your revision, and that stress can just sort of just drop away, and you can be in a great mindset to just be like, yeah, I know this, I can do this, God's with me, I've got this. If you're finding yourself, when you get to the exam situation, that you're sat there, you've got the paper in front of you, and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do, this question could come up and then I don't know the answer, and you're getting yourself in a bit of a panic. What I always used to do during my exams was just to say a quick arrow prayer to God. For those of you who don't know what an arrow prayer is, it's literally a one-line prayer. It could be as simple as, Lord, please help me with this exam. Please help me to have my mind focused on the paper and just be with me as I open it up. Amen. And it definitely helped me through all my exams, because it kind of, if I felt myself getting all like, oh no, I can't do this, I don't know what's going to happen, I would say that prayer, and I would just then be like, okay, now I'm at peace, because I'd handed it over to God, and he was then my refuge and my strength during the exam. So yeah, be encouraged. Please do that. Yeah, good luck in all your exams. I will be praying for you. So if you want to, then please do feel free to comment below when your exams are, the dates and the subjects. Don't worry about putting your name. If you want to put your name, brilliant. If your YouTube name is your name, then brilliant. If you've got a really random YouTube name like Excelsior 999 or whatever, then if you want to put your real name, great. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. But please do feel free to put your exam dates and the name of the exam or the subject that you're doing, so that you can know that I'll be praying for you in the build up to your exams as well as on the day itself. If you have any questions about this part of the stress topic, then again, please do comment below with any questions you might have about it, or anything else you'd like covered in relation to exam stress that you feel hasn't been covered. Yeah, so please do that. Please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. Please do share it as well. This channel is gonna be for young people, but it's also going to be for students as well. And actually, if you're neither of those and you're still watching this, then thank you. I hope you find some encouragement in what I'm talking about. And again, please do subscribe to the channel for more topics. Next time, we're going to be looking at the second part of our stress series, and it's going to be stress over what next. So once the exams are out of the way, or we're coming to a sort of period of we don't know what to do next, we're going to be looking at that. So yeah, stay tuned and look forward to that one. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.